When you're standing in front of a crowd, the last thing you want is to wonder if the mixer you just bought will actually hold up when the night gets to its peak. So who is the Allen and Heath XONE 96 really good for? Who should skip it? And is it worth the price for the everyday DJ who just wants a reliable rig without breaking the bank? The link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. I've spent a few weeks testing the XONE 96 in small club gigs, home studio sessions, and a couple of back-to-back DJ battles, and I'm going to walk you through what that actually looks like in practice, not just a spec sheet. First off, the biggest hesitation most buyers have with a 6-channel analog mixer is whether it's overkill for a 2-deck setup or, conversely, whether it will limit them when they want to expand. The XONE 96 sits in a sweet spot. It gives you 6 full-featured channels, but those extra channels are not just idle lanes. In a club setting, you might have 2 turntables on decks 1 and 2, a couple of CDJs on decks 3 and 4, and still have room for a sampler or an effects loop on the remaining channels. That flexibility is the real reason the XONE 96 feels less like just an author mixer, and more like a small-scale production console. If you're only ever using 2 decks, you'll likely never touch channels 5 and 6, which means you're paying for potential future growth rather than current necessity. That's a trade-off worth noting. Now, let's talk about the 2 independent USB connections. Most mixers give you a single USB port that handles both input and output. Allen and Heath decided to split it, giving you 2 separate 6 stereo input outputs. In real life, that translates to being able to send each half of your setup to a different laptop. I tried this by routing the first 3 channels to a laptop running Traktor Pro, while the other 3 fed a second laptop playing a pre-recorded backing track. The result was a seamless blend where I could switch between the 2 computers without any latency hiccups or needing a messy external audio interface. For a DJ who runs a hybrid setup, say, vinyl on one side and a digital deck on the other, this is a genuine time saver. The downside? It adds a bit of a learning curve if you've never managed dual USB routing before. You'll need to dedicate a few minutes to mapping out which channels go where, otherwise you could end up sending the same signal to both laptops and waste the feature. Another point that often trips up new owners is the dual Xone VCF filters with that signature crunch distortion. In the hands of a seasoned player, those filters can shape a track with a kind of gritty, analog warmth that digital emulations simply can't replicate. I tested the filters during a late-night set, stacking them over a deep bass line and then flipping to a hi-hat loop. The result was a palpable shift in the atmosphere. Listeners reported feeling the edge of the distortion more than they would with a stock filter. However, if your style leans toward clean, pristine house or tech house, you might find the extra gritty character unnecessary, and you'll spend more time dialing down the filter to avoid unintentionally muddying the mix. In short, the VCF is a powerful tool for those who like to sculpt sound on the fly, but it can be a distraction for purists. The 2 independent headphone cue systems are a practical feature that often goes unnoticed until you're actually sharing a booth. Picture a back-to-back gig where you and a fellow DJ are swapping tracks every few minutes. With the XONE 96, each of you can cue your next track on separate headphones without fighting over the cue button. I tried this in a friendly battle, and we both had confidence that we were previewing the correct track, which kept the transition smooth and the energy up. The price you pay for those extra cue circuits is minimal, but the benefit in collaborative environments is significant. If you're a solo performer, you might not need 2 headphone mixers. A single cue system would suffice. Now onto the practical strengths. The analog signal path is where the XONE legacy lives, and it's audible. Compared to a fully digital mixer, where you sometimes sense a thinness in the low end, the XONE 96 analog faders and mixers preserve that warmth, especially noticeable when you're using vinyl. The mixer also feels solid on stage. The chassis doesn't vibrate even after a full night of banging the knobs. That stability means you can trust your settings won't drift mid-set, which is priceless when you're juggling multiple tracks. On the flip side, the lack of a built-in LCD screen or digital waveform display means you rely heavily on your external software for visual cues. If you're used to seeing a track's position directly on the mixer, you'll need to look at your laptop more often, which can be a minor inconvenience. Value for money is the final piece of